In my latest video I talked about the terrifying world of grizzly bears, but it turns out there's another bear that is more vicious and violent than the great grizzly bear. That's right, I'm talking about the terrifying polar bear. Now if you run into a polar bear, you're fucking dead. There's no chance of survival. These psychos will make sure of it and they will eat you alive. Polar bears are primarily found in the Arctic Circle, near the Arctic Ocean, its surrounding seas and the coastline of the Arctic. They are highly adapted to cold and icy environments. Now polar bears are fucking massive in their size. Male polar bears can generally weigh larger than the females. Adult males typically weigh between 900 and 1600 pounds, which is up to 756 kilograms, and can measure up to 10 feet or 3 meters in length. The females are smaller, usually weighing between 330 to 650 pounds, which is up to nearly 300 kilograms, and they also tend to measure up to about 10 feet tall. Now in comparison to the great terrifying grizzly bear, which is a max weight of 1,000 pounds, these motherfuckers can weigh up to 1,600 pounds. That's an insane amount of weight, and even at 1,600 pounds these fuckers can run at over 46 kilometers per hour, or for my non-European followers, about 30 miles an hour. So if you can imagine just for a second a 1,600 pound fucking bear running at you at 46 kilometers a fucking hour, that is terrifying, and that is something that was created from the pits of hell itself. Polar bears are actually classified as marine mammals because, like most bears, the great polar bear is an apex predator, so they actually have no natural predators and are effectively the kings of the Arctic. They are the largest land carnivore in the world, and they can smell their prey up to 20 miles away or 3 miles deep below the ice in the ocean. Generally speaking, polar bears are solitary except for when they're cubs and during the mating season. Now females only breed once every 3 years. So that means that there is about 3 adult males to every 1 breeding female. And before mating, a female bear, generally speaking, is approached by several males. One really cool fact I learned about these magnificent beasts of pure death is that they're actually black and not white. Polar bear fur is actually translucent and only appears white because it reflects the visible light and allows them to camouflage into their environment. Beneath all that thick fur, their skin is actually jet black, which helps them soak up the sun rays and keep warm, which is pretty fucking cool. Now just to give you guys an idea of how vicious these monsters can be, I did want to show you some clips of bears actually fighting each other. So check this out. Now it's important to mention that because polar bears are generally solitary, so generally speaking, when the ice hasn't melted yet, especially during the summer, bears tend to be along the shoreline. So this is when bears kind of tend to interact more, and this is when you get some vicious fighting going on. And generally speaking, this happens only when the biggest bears tend to want to fight because they would have the most energy reserves to do so, where the kind of weaker, smaller bears just wouldn't get involved because they just haven't eaten enough to be able to have the energy to actually do it. Now in fairness, these bears right now that we're looking at kind of look like they're kind of doing a little dance. So let me just find something here that's a bit more vicious. Hold on. Okay, so look at this one. So this one, there's 2 polar bears going at it, and Jesus Christ, look at the blood. Now that's more vicious, isn't it? 2 1,600 pound male bears just going at it, like just totally fucking just destroying themselves. It's fucking terrifying. Now generally speaking, polar bears are only successful in their hunts 1 out of every 20 times, and the vast majority of what they hunt are seals. You can't help but feel bad for seals though. I mean, look how cute they look. If they're not getting attacked by polar bears, they're getting attacked by killer whales. So if you look at this clip here, you can see how well the bear blends into its environment. Jesus, you know what? I kind of feel like David Attenborough. She glides majestically on the hunt, looking for the perfect seal that she will rip in half and eat and feel whole again. But Jesus Christ, imagine that thing jumping out at you, like holy fuck, like she got him. Like if you're the seal and you're just lying there in the ice, if that thing jumps out at you, you're like the level of fear you must feel in that moment. Now this seal in particular isn't a huge seal, but the sea blubber alone actually has over 100,000 calories, which will keep this bear going for around about a week. So it's a high calorie intake for such a small animal. Another species these crazy motherfuckers love to hunt is beluga whales. Now if you haven't seen a beluga whale, these guys are majestic. They're beautiful creatures. So it really makes you question how evil these fucking bears are, that they would want to attack something so beautiful and majestic as it swims through the ocean So if you look at the clip here, we can see that this absolute beast of a bear decides that it's going to stay on this rock and wait for the perfect moment to ambush, where this other guy decides that he's going to swim directly after the belugas. Now, what this younger, inexperienced bear doesn't realize is that the chances of actually catching a beluga whale spot on in the water like this is pretty much impossible. So he really isn't going to get anywhere. Now, the other bear continues to wait, sitting on the rock. It waits for the water to rise, meaning that the beluga whales will swim closer to the shore. So this more experienced bear will sit there and wait for its moment and will pounce. So if you imagine a 1,600 pound bear jumping on you, pretty terrifying, and this bear is successful in this attack. They also like to hunt walrus as well. Now, as you can see, there's a huge volume of walruses here, and at first you might think, oh, this is easy picking for the bear, but this is not an easy thing to do, because walruses are big motherfuckers and they will fight back. Now, this bear does attempt to, as you can see, climb onto this mother walrus who is protecting her cub in an attempt to get to the cub. But the problem for the bear is that the walrus's hide is so thick that it actually can't penetrate the skin to actually do any real damage. So he tries to go for another one, and this particular walrus is pretty clever because it swims towards the ocean, and the closer it gets into the ocean, the bear can't basically do anything. So the bear actually loses in this attempt. And so this is, not one of the 19 times or the 20 times where the bear actually doesn't win. And it seemed like easy pickings at the start, but walruses are bad motherfuckers, and they will fight, and they will not let some stupid 1,600 pound killer bear stop them. Now, generally speaking, if a polar bear attacks you, unlike other bears where there is some chance of survival, there isn't with these. Especially if it's a hungry male, it will kill you and it will eat you. If you play dead, it will still kill you. It is generally advised, like with other bears, to use bear spray and hope for the best and go for the eyes. Now, you could fight back, but it's a waste of time. You're dead. If you run, you'll die. If you stay, you'll die. Basically, if the bear decides that it wants you and it wants to eat you, you're dead. Just hope that it ends quick, because it will be slow and painful. Now, I'm sure most of you guys have seen this footage from the BBC. This is when a cameraman gets into this glass box, which apparently is bear-proof. And let's look at what happens. Now, this bear wants to clearly kill and eat him. The bear can smell the scent of this guy, and he's hungry. Jesus fucking Christ. Like, he's trying to actually break in, like, and look at the size of its paws. Like, look at the size of them. Like, what the actual fuck? Like, how is this dude so calm? Like, and look at its mouth. Imagine that mouth around your throat. You are fucking dead 10 times over. Because of global warming, polar bears are forced to actually wait longer during the summertime to hunt, and the sea ice is basically melting at a higher frequency, so they actually can't get out there. So it actually puts humans more at risk, because they will go more inland in a way to get some food. Now, there are countless stories of bears, especially polar bears, killing and eating people. Like, Jesus Christ, some of the stories I've researched are absolutely horrific. One story I did want to tell, which to me is the most horrific, just to really emphasize the viciousness of the great polar bear, was one about a man by the name of Aaron Gibbons, who was eaten alive in front of his own children. So Aaron Gibbons was a very experienced hunter back in 2018. He lived in an area called Arviat, which was a small community in really harsh conditions that was very remote, that required the community support to survive. Polar bears had always been in close proximity with people from this area, but attacks were very rare. They also had set up a patrol that would basically keep the bears away from people and would encourage the bears to kind of keep their distance. So generally speaking, people weren't too worried. They had a lot of respect for the bears. There was kind of a thought process of there was a mutual respect for each other. So bears generally left them alone, people generally left the bears alone. So Aaron generally hunted for the community and provided food for the community. He was a well-liked guy. And unfortunately, on July 3rd, he and his family would go to this small island to do some fishing and to collect some bird eggs. The island was about 10 miles away from his home and was a hotspot for tourism and for beluga whales. So when they arrived, the children headed off to grab some bird eggs. And Aaron noticed at this time that a polar bear was getting very close to his children, especially one of his younger daughters. The polar bear's ears were back, which indicated that she saw the children as prey. Aaron knew that he had to stop his child from certain death. So Aaron screamed at his children to run to the boat as fast as he can. He ran towards the kids to basically try to get between him and the kids and the polar bear, but then realized he left his rifle behind, so he had no weapon whatsoever. So he had literally no protection except for his fists. So he threw rocks at the bear to try scare it away from the children. Now, luckily for him, the bear actually did stop fixating on his children, but he did not notice initially that the bear decided to fixate on him. So the bear starts moving towards Aaron. Aaron continues to throw rocks, literally has no effect on the bear. So Aaron does the thing you're not supposed to do, and he decides to run. So Aaron turns towards the boat, hoping and praying that he can make it to the boat to grab his rifle and hopefully kill the bear. Now, unfortunately for Aaron, the fact that these bears can run out up to 46 kilometers per hour, it did not take long for the bear to catch up to Aaron. Aaron would then be grabbed by the neck and swung around like a rag doll, and he would then proceed to be eaten alive in front of his children. So initially, when the bear started eating him, he was still alive, and obviously, of course, thankfully died during this process. Now, as you can imagine, this is fucking horrific, and luckily for the kids, help would arrive and the bear would be killed, but at this point Aaron was already half eaten. So this man, of course, was a hero. This man was someone that put his life before his kids, what a real father should do. And despite the fact that I'm sure he didn't want to get eaten alive by a polar bear, 10 times out of 10 he would choose to do that to save his children. Now, the community was obviously devastated that this happened. His kids were devastated, and I can't imagine the psychological effects of the trauma created from seeing your father getting eaten alive by a polar bear. Now, is this polar bear evil? No, it's not. It's a polar bear. It's nature. You know, polar bears, like any animal, will eat to survive, and they will happily eat your children right in front of you and will not have any remorse. So this is just one example of how monstrous these animals can be in the right circumstances. They do not care. They will eat anything and fucking everything. So if you see one, say a quick prayer to your God and ask him or her why the fuck bears were created in the first place, as you get eaten alive in front of your friends and family. But this is nature. This is nature. Because of global warming, polar bears are having a harder time hunting as the sea ice, like I mentioned before, continues to melt. So that means these crazy bastards will go inland and will look for food, whether it be deer, dogs, wolves, whatever, but humans as well. They do not discriminate. They are one of the few apex predators in the world that see us humans as food. So they will happily destroy you. But do not panic, you know. It's very unlikely that they're going to stroll into a Starbucks while you're ordering your caramel frappuccino, you know. So yeah, that's just a little kind of summary about the polar bear and how fucking terrifying it is. Just stay away from polar bears. Just stay away from bears in general. I don't understand. And I don't mean to attack Americans personally. And I'm not talking about all you guys, okay? Just, you know, stay away from them. Why are you going into their territory? Why are you putting yourself in a position to get eaten alive? I don't understand. It was the same with the brown bear, grizzly bears. Just stay away from their territories. It's not worth it. I'd rather not fucking get eaten alive by a bear. That's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching, as always. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned some things about the crazy world of the polar bear. Just like any animal, we need to treat these apex predators with respect, you know? And, you know, leave them alone. And just fucking stay away. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe and all that good stuff. As always, if you have any sort of stories about your interaction with the polar bears, I'd very much like to hear them. Obviously, polar bear attacks are a bit more rare considering where they live. But yeah, if you have any stories or there's anything I didn't include, any facts that I missed, please let me know in the comments. I didn't include everything about polar bears, you know. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.